Hello everybody, it's Joe Mann from James River Homebrewers, and today I want to talk about some things you might need in a emergency kit. These are a few things that I have in my brew room that keeps me safe for when I run out of stuff that maybe I need for a brew day and the brew shop's not open, or just in case. Things I like to keep around. One of the things I like to keep around is some light DME. If ever I'm doing a beer and I don't quite hit my numbers, I can always make an adjustments with it. DME is also very useful for carbonating beer should you run out of priming sugar. Some things I like to keep around for cleaning is some clear grade alcohol. This is some 80 proof vodka. I always keep a little small sample, usually a test batch of just one step easy clean. Wherever you can find that, if you get that in a kit or something, just set it aside, don't use it. Hang on to it, make it a part of your emergency kit. You will need that at one day, but I would just set it aside and keep it when you need it. A thermometer. When I first started brewing, I used a nice glass thermometer like this. Then I immediately went out and bought an electric thermometer, and it's always important to calibrate these. A little hard to see here. This thermometer is about a degree off. What you want to do is get some ice water, set it in there for about 20 minutes, and then check it. It should be right at freezing. If it's not, you can follow the manufacturer's instructions for deleting it. Adjusting it. If you have a glass thermometer, just make a mental note of whether you're off by a degree or two. Hydrometer. These are very easy to break. I have broken them before during a cleaning process and went out and bought a refractometer right away and an extra hydrometer. Keep the hydrometer handy in case my refractometer is lost or I can't find it, or having an extra refractometer is always a good idea, and it helps you cross-reference to make sure that your refractometer is accurate and calibrated as well. And then if you're brewing with gas, it's always great to have an extra LP cylinder. Keeping this handy is paramount. It's nothing more frustrating than getting through a brew day and running out of propane, and then having to resort to putting it on the stove. Extra carboy. If you were using glass carboys, they can break and will break at some point. And it's always good to keep a little lighter around to help sanitize the top of that. Keep it all neat and clean. Lighters are useful for other things as well. I like to keep multi-tool handy, something that has a few tools on it, because there are some equipments that need some adjustments or tweaking, and having this handy and opening packages like a knife and things like that, very useful. And having a faucet wrench. If you're into tapping your beer, kegging your beer, this helps get the tap handle off. You lose this tool, there's really no other way to get it off of there. So it's good to have an extra one. I've misplaced that before, and it's always nice to have an extra one. When making beer, typically they'll tell you that you can get 2 cases of beer out of a batch of beer. I like to have extra beer bottles handy for various reasons. One, I like the flip top beer bottles because I can go back in and kind of taste it as it's aging out. There will be some oxidation from opening and closing it, but it's good to have a closable container. You can recap regular beer bottles, but it's just easier to have this handy. I'm using it that way. Carb drops and priming sugar. I have found I've lost some beer when I was making it and had my sugar ready to go and realized that my sugar calculations were going to be too high for beer that I had bottled, and the bottled beer turned out to be about 3 gallons instead of 5, so I resorted to carbonation drops. Conditioning drops, and there's directions on here that tell you like if you want to be low, medium, high carbonation. Good to have. If you ever get a kit that comes with one of these priming sugars, just set it aside. Go out and buy you a large priming sugar and use that instead, and put this in your emergency kit. It's also good to have that handy for when things, go awry. Dry yeast. I've had stuck fermentations, and dry yeast is nice to have on board. You can just sprinkle it right on in there, and things will pick right back up. I prefer to use the US-05. It's the Safel yeast. It gives me a nice clean profile. It doesn't really affect the flavor of my beer. Muzzle bags are always good to have. A mesh bag of some sort if you're going to be using whole leaf hops or any kind of additive that's going to add trub to your beer. Throwing it in a sack like that helps keep it clean, keeps it neat. Bubblers. There's 2 different kinds. There's the 3-part and then the 2-part bubbler. This is great for when you're cold crashing, because as you're cold crashing, the air flows in the other direction. Whereas if it's fermenting, it flows in this direction so that nothing nasty gets in there. The 3-part bubbler, I always leave the top off, just because I like that CO2 to escape. And I do use a closed fermentation vessel, so I've got a temperature control thing that I keep them in, so I'm not really worried about anything nasty getting in there. But if I'm brewing a beer that's over, say, 6% ABV, I always use a blow-off tube. Make sure your tubing is the right diameter to fit inside of your plug so that it can escape. The other end, I usually typically put it into a cup of either sanitized water that I've boiled or a little bit of vodka, just to keep it neat in case stuff tries to go back in the other direction. Teflon tape, very useful. If you've got a lot of mechanics in your brew house and you got pieces of metal touching pieces of metal, it's good to have a little Teflon tape to keep the seals sealed. Speaking of seals, if you're going into kegging, it's good to have an extra set of seals for your keg. Very easy. Oftentimes those seals will fail on you, and they'll fail at the worst possible time. Having an extra kit handy is very useful. And cappers. I have broken a capper before. It happens. They wear out. Having an extra capper is a good idea, and having extra caps. What I like to do is if I have extra caps from brew day, I'll just put them all in one bag and just put a rubber band around it and save them for next time. If I use a cap and it goes into a Star San solution before I'm capping, I don't reuse those caps because I found that they tend to rust on me. So I just pitch them if I don't use them. But if I never put them in the solution and I've got some extra caps, I throw them in a Ziploc bag and they're good to go. It's good to have a bottle opener. I know that sounds silly, but I've been looking for bottle openers since. Good to have handy. And last but not least, a nice cold beer for the end of your brew day. Hope you enjoyed the video and hope this helps. I'm sure there's some things you have in your emergency kit that I don't have listed here. Feel free to leave some notes behind, and thanks for watching.